All right, everyone. Welcome to the Tonto's Demise Week 7 recap. All right, let's see. A little Courtney Barnett to get us started here after a great show the other night. Me, Brian, Detling, and Diark all went, had a good time. Switching it up to the Rustic Tent hooded sweatshirt today instead of the t-shirt because it's cold outside. But then you're probably thinking to yourself, but you just cut your hair and you're complaining about the cold? Well, yeah, I know. It doesn't make any sense. But not much this season does make sense now, does it? So, but well, I don't have to worry about it for the next 6 months, I think. And you'll get to watch the slow progression over the next couple, at least for the next month or so, 2 months of hair growing back. Anyway, what happened in week 7? Lots of things. Not too many, couple injuries here and there. Things still continue to be dismal at best for the commish. Some good we had some good matchups. One went down to Monday night, but just one matchup came down to Monday night. Although one was another matchup that was kind of just could have come down to Monday night, but somebody just squeaked out a victory there. So instead of wasting time, more time, I guess, let's get right into it. First matchup, as always, the defending champion, which is Springfield Isotopes, going up against Shawshank Athletics this week, the Kibisic Killer. Not to be this week, as Springfield Isotopes go bananas, breaking Gag's single week record for this, at least for this season, from last week. He set it at 251, and the Isotopes topple that. The score is 263.4 to Shawshank's very respectable 186.05. Let's take a quick look here, Josh. Just bad luck for you this week because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You would have beaten 8 teams this week. Unfortunately, you went up against one of the, was it 3? Isotopes would have beaten you. Bad Luck Bears would have beaten you. And yeah, Gags to Riches. So only 3 teams could have beaten you this week, and you end up playing one of them. I know exactly how that feels. It happens. But that's just the way fantasy football goes sometimes. Let's take a look at the lineups here. For the Isotopes, we had Mahomes going for 66.5. AJ Green, Tyreek Hill, and Albert Wilson, 18.5, 20.5, and 6.5 respectively. Plugged in Wilson this week, and he almost immediately got hurt. Contributed about 6.5 points before looks like some kind of hip injury. Hopefully he didn't get Bo Jackson, but it looks like they are putting him on IR. So I guess, is it my fault for the first week that I played him? I put him in, and now he's done for the year. So my apologies, Albert Wilson, for putting you in the starting lineup this week, and thus ending your season. All right, then running backs, we had James White and Tariq Cohen going at each other in the same game there, Patriots-Bears. James White, 29.7, and Cohen, 22.3. Hooper at tight end, 7.8. Gurley in the flex, 30.5. He's pretty much been... Todd Gurley has been basically 30 points every week in the bank. I was actually able to watch the 49ers-Rams game on Yahoo's sports app. I think because I did not let them access my location. I think I did that last week, and I was forced to watch. I could only watch the Ravens game or something like that. But anyway, I was able to watch that game, and it seems like the Rams, they are keeping track of how many touchdowns Todd Gurley has. And every time they get to the red zone, they're like, we're giving it to Gurley. We're giving it to Gurley. Like, he's been getting three touchdowns every week. I think whatever he scored this week, he tied Priest Holmes for the most touchdowns in your first 7 games, I guess. For the league record, he tied him. So I think the Rams are just going all out this year, force-feeding Gurley red zone touches whenever they get down there. And it seems like they want him to get the touchdown record this year. So I'm sure that listening to me talk about that just thrills all of you who are listening to this. But anyway, like I said, Gurley, 30.5. Picked up and played the New York Giants kicker. He got about 6.5 points. And then, as we all know, from Thursday night, the Denver Broncos defense had 2 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 5 turnovers. The actual score was 54. So, a lot of big scores this week for the Isotopes. Although, I was telling Justin about this earlier, as they mentioned it in the podcast last week, wasn't sure what to do about a kicker this week. Crosby was on bye. It's like, well, what do I do? And finally it came around on Saturday night. It's like, you know what? I will not toy with the fantasy gods. I will pick up a kicker and put him in there because I'm not going to go into it. No hubris. No getting ahead of myself here. We're going to pick up a kicker and we're going to have some... We're not going to go into the matchup with an empty spot in the lineup there. Then, I ended up making a pickup, decided who it was, and almost immediately after that, I'm like, God fucking hell, why did you do that? Because both kickers in the Monday night game were on the waiver wire. You really could have just waited and seen if you really needed to pick up a kicker or not till Monday, because as I said, both of them were available. And it's one I ended up picking up. I actually picked up anyway. It was a Monday night kicker. But anyway, enough talking about my team. You guys don't like it, I know. Anyway, Shawshank, like I said, he had a pretty good score, but not quite enough this week. Take a look at his lineup. He dropped Darnold and picked up Trubisky. Ended up being a pretty good play. He went for almost 62 points. Would have been a little bit more if Kevin White had been able to manage one more yard at the end of that game. They threw that Hail Mary for a 50-some yard pass completion. He caught it at the 1, but was tackled and pushed back before he could get into the end zone and possibly tie the game there, which would have been crazy. I think that pass was what pushed him up over 300 yards passing there. But anyway, about 62 points from him. The receivers were Robert Woods, Allen Robinson, and T.Y. Hilton, back from his injury. Woods, 13.5. Robinson, only 1.5. And Hilton, 18.5. I think Robinson must have still been had lingering effects from whatever his injury was. Tried to play through it, but ended up not being able to there. You're probably hoping for the Trubisky to Robinson connection to get you a little bit more points there, even though Trubisky did pretty good. Robinson really let you down there. Let's see, running backs then, Kerryon Johnson and Nick Chubb. Johnson, 23 points, and Chubb for 14. He's now the starting running back for the Browns, now that they got rid of Carlos Hyde. So, the good news for you, Josh, there is, I would imagine the rest of the season, things are looking up for that guy. I'm sure he's going to be... So Johnson's looking good. He went for 158 yards. I think he had a 70-some yard rush there. So to really pad those stats there. But he's been pretty good consistently. I think Chubb hasn't been getting many carries so far this season, but when he does pretty well. So like I said, now he's going to be getting a lot more work. So he's probably going to be a good play in your starting lineup every week from here on out. Tight end, O.J. Howard, 11.5. Funchess in the flex, 18.2. Fairbairn, your kicker, looks like about 10.5. And then the Jacksonville defense, another highly disappointing matchup from them. Yahoo says 7. I think it was right around there, or maybe just a little bit more. I think they did okay in terms of yardage allowed, but I believe I read on Yahoo somewhere that there was a near brawl in the locker room. So things are not going well for the Jacksonville Jaguars all around right now. With so even though they just got Hyde, both they and you, Josh, are waiting for Fournette to come back around. They benched Bortles. They put I can't even think of Cody Kessler. I think that's who the backup quarterback was. They're giving him reps in practice now. So we'll see what happens. Their whole team is really a mess right now, which I think so their defense is really killing you. Although, if you think about it, they were really hyped in 2016. I think if you'll remember the Jacksonville Jaguars defense, they were really hyped. People, I think might even have been Josh, picked them up. They ended up being a disappointment. Then last year, same thing in 2017. They were hyped real big before the season. But as we all know, actually last year they lived up to that hype and those expectations and were one of the best. They probably were the best defense in the league last year. And now perhaps we're coming back and having another 2016-ish type season for them. So disappointing for you. But still, you did a pretty good showing. Unfortunately for Shawshank, you dropped to 3-4 and down to 9th place. We'll get to the standings here, probably at the end here, but so you had a good score. Teams coming together, I think, in a decent way. Hopefully for you, Jacksonville can turn it around, but said some other good things seem to be coming along for you, like Kerryon Johnson and Chubb. Said O.J. Howard. We'll see. No, you didn't have. So maybe Fournette will be coming back. You've got Aaron Rodgers, who was on bye this week. So still, hopefully some good. Looks like you might have some good things ahead for the rest of the season there. So no reason to hang your head on this loss. And the Isotopes, they stay undefeated at 7-0, and they are in first place. All right, next matchup. Who do we got? We got Space Antelope, no longer singing the 0-3 blues, making a push. He was going up against the White Wolf this week, currently Juju and the Losers, and Space Antelope turning things around, going from 0-3 to 3-4. Picks up a victory here. He won, final score, 184.6 to 124.65. All right, Space Antelope. Phillip Rivers, 45. Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, and Larry Fitzgerald, 17.5, 14, and 14, respectively. Running backs, Philip Lindsay and Sony Michel, 16.5 and 2.5. Michel got injured there, knee injury, but they're saying that it looks like he did not have any serious structural damage, so he might miss a week or 2 or 3 maybe, but he is definitely not done for the season for you, so that's a bit of a relief there. Although we're getting to the stretch run of the season here, guys. So you're probably wishing that you had him because he was doing well these past few weeks and really coming along. Tight end Kittle, almost 21 points. Ingram in the flex, just over 6. Lutz, your kicker, about 6 or 7. And then the Colts defense. Pretty much anybody going against Buffalo this year is a good play. Yahoo says 26. I think it was somewhere in the 30s, maybe close to 40, actually. So pretty good score for you there. But it was enough to get past the White Wolf this week. He went with Case Keenum at quarterback. Only got you 23.5. Michael Thomas, D.D. Westbrook, and Zach Pascal. 20, 5.5, and 0, respectively, there. Picked up Pascal. This was a rough week for the White Wolf, as pretty much any other starters he might have wanted to consider were either injured or on bye this week. That includes, Cooper Kupp, Amari Cooper, Juju, Anunwa, Geronimo Allison, Randall Cobb, Boswell. It's quite a list of people who were either out or either injured or on bye. So not much you could have done this week. You cobbled together a lineup. Did the best you could with what you got. Running backs, Freeman and Gore, 9.5 and 4.5. Njoku said one of the bright spots on your team since Mayfield took over. Another 15.5 points for him. On the flex, you put Sutton from the Broncos, just under 10. Picked up the Eagles kicker, because I think Boswell was on bye. Looks like he got you about 5 or 6 points. And then you went with the Redskins defense, who actually was a pretty good play. They did pretty well, won the game against Dallas. Looks like they had a touchdown, a couple turnovers. Yahoo says 22. I think the actual total was closer to 28 or 30, somewhere around there. But unfortunately, not enough for the White Wolf to get his first victory. He is still winless and 0-7 in 12th place. While, like I said, Space Antelope been kind of making a comeback here, rising up the ranks. He is now 3-4 and in 8th place, just above Shawshank Athletics there. So, Space Antelope, look out for him coming down the stretch here, turning things around. Be interesting to see how things play out. All right, next we had the matchup that came down to Monday night. It was the Bad Luck Bears versus Disco. And Disco, let's check my numbers. He actually went into Monday night with a lead of about 26 or 27 points. And they both had a receiver and a running back in this game. But unfortunately for Disco, Bad Luck Bears still had his quarterback left to go, which was Matt Ryan. And that pretty much, he was able to make up the difference because said Beckham and Coleman did pretty good. Definitely outscored Shepard and Smith there for the Bad Luck Bears. But said Matt Ryan was able to cover the point total there and get you the 18-point victory. The final score is 192.15 to 174.35. So Bad Luck Bears had Matt Ryan, 57 points. His receivers, Brandon Cooks, Mike Evans, and again Sterling Shepard. Cooks 17, Evans 17.5, and Shepard went for 24.5. So pretty good. Running backs, Ito Smith and Jamal Charles. I can't believe he actually started Jamal Charles. Because he is no longer on the team. He's gone. What other options did you have? Just take a quick look here. None. You actually did not have any other choices. Because everyone else that you might have had was either injured or on bye. So, must be a Huber thing there. Here this past week. But anyway, so Ito Smith, he got you 6.5. Jamal Charles did get you 1.5, so that's something. Let's see, the 1 week that you played, you probably will play. I don't even know what his first name is. Goedert, Dallas Goedert from the Eagles, the tight end. And the 1 week that you're probably going to use him, he actually got you a touchdown. He went for over about 14.5 points there. So, nice play. I'm sure Jimmy Graham will be in your tight end spot the rest of the year. Back in there. But it's always nice to luck out and get that 1 week that you're going to use a bench player. And he gets you a touchdown. In the flex, Will Fuller, 12.8. Vinatieri, your kicker, looks like he got about... Well, he missed 2 PATs. That's unusual. I see a Q by his name now, though, so he must have suffered some sort of injury during that game. Things like that happen whenever you're 45 years old. But anyway, he got you about 3 or 4. And the Houston Texans defense, Yahoo says 19. I think it was closer to 30 or so. They did pretty well. Actually, it might have even been more than that. I want to say you actually might have gotten double. It might have been 18. Actually, you actually might have gotten on 30. I want to say it might have been 37 or 40. It was up there close to 40 for the Houston Texans defense. So that was one of the big factors here in this matchup. For Disco, let's see, he had quarterback Winston, went for 56.5. Receivers, Beckham Jr. again, Diggs, and Corey Davis. Beckham Jr. outscored Shepard by 4 points. He had 28.2. Diggs had 10.5, and Corey Davis had 4. And then Coleman outscored Ito Smith. His score was 16.2. But unfortunately for you, you had Breida in there from the 49ers. He wasn't even, I'm not sure he was even expected to play. Maybe that was this week, maybe that was last week, but he's in there anyway. And he ended up losing a fumble and not getting enough points, or not getting enough yardage to get you the points to get you back into the positive side. He actually scored you minus a half a point there. Let's see, then Jordan Reed, tight end, 6.5. And then in your flex, no Melvin Gordon, no problem. You plugged in Marlon Mack. Maybe he was going to be in there anyway instead of Breida, but he said no Gordon. Mack got you 35 points, so who needs Melvin Gordon? Gostowski, about 8 points maybe. And then the Baltimore Ravens defense, tough matchups for them against the Saints there. They lost the game. Looks like they did have a turnover, maybe 1 sack. Yahoo says 7. It was probably right around there, maybe just a little bit more than that. But not enough with that negative points from Breida. Let's see. Don't really think there's much else you could have done in terms of your lineup there. Said with Gordon being out, they could have done to get those points to maybe win this game, but not to worry there, because for Disco, that's only your second loss of the season. You're 5-2. You're in third place, still looking pretty good, heading down the stretch here. As for Bad Luck Bears, he was on a losing streak, needed to turn things around, and he was able to do that this week. He is now 4-3, right behind Disco in fourth place. Let's see. Next matchup, we have Possum Magic going against FC Bohoric. Both of these teams were 1-5, looking to avoid dropping to 1-6, which means you are pretty much already looking on. You're joining the White Wolf and pretty much already looking ahead to next season. And unfortunately for FC Bohoric, he was on the short end of the stick this week, as Possum Magic gets the victory, 178.75 to 162.8. Let's see, for Possum Magic, he had quarterback Baker Mayfield with 46. The Mayfield to Landry connection looks like it was actually on this week, because he had 10 of Mayfield's 23 completions. Landry going for 25.5, a little bit more than that. Golden Tate, 10.5. Emmanuel Sanders, I think he had 2 touchdowns there. Did he throw the 1 touchdown, I think? But yeah, that counts this year. So you got those passing stats. He got you 28.5 points. Excuse me. Running backs, Peyton Barber and Nyheim Hines, 3 and 5 respectively there. Looks like Hines is taking a back seat now that Marlon Mack is back. So might not be the trade that involved is Hines might have been decent value there in the short term, but over the long term, obviously anything can happen these next few weeks of the season. We don't know what will happen, how things are going to shake out, because obviously Marlon Mack is a serious injury threat. I think he missed all of last year, basically, with injury, and now he's finally just coming back this year from injury there. So Hines, we'll have to wait and see if how things pan out for him. but in terms of the trade value, not looking so good. Now, let's see, Trey Burton. Let's see, he had a big game, 27.5 points there. In a flex, again, Tyler Boyd, but he suffered from, well, we'll get to that. He had only 5.5 points. Kicker was also the Bengals' Bullock. He only had 4. Carolina Panthers defense had a good game for you. Yahoo says 13, but I believe it was actually closer to 20 or 21, something like that. Enough to get past FC Bohoric. Set a 16-point margin here. The reason I talk about Tyler Boyd there is because FC Bohoric had Andy Dalton, who Justin needed a big game from him going into Sunday night there to try and catch up and get past Possum Magic in this one. But that's never easy thing to do whenever your opponent has one of your quarterback's favorite targets. It always really favors the receiver there if in those types of situations, because you're getting more points for touchdowns if they score them, and you're getting more points for the yardage there. And Andy Dalton, he was actually, I mean, if he had done a decent, like a normal quarterback's score, this one actually might have gone the other way, because it was only a 16-point margin here, and Andy Dalton only went for 23.5 points. He was absolutely abysmal in the second half of that game. If you watched it, couldn't do anything right. Said only 23.5 points. So you think if he would have been, even if Dalton had got you 40 or 45, and even if, let's see, Tyler Boyd would have gone for maybe 15, things might have been different, especially considering FC Bohoric also had it at tight end, Uzama, who did have 9.5 points there. It was Andy Dalton's only touchdown went to him. So you got to think that maybe if Dalton had a better game, perhaps Uzama would have, the connection between those two would have been enough to squeak this one in favor of FC Bohoric instead of Tyler Boyd and Possum there. But we can speculate. We can speculate all we want about how things could have gone. It is not how they went. So, said Dalton, only 23.5. For FC Bohoric here, Keenan Allen, Marquise Goodwin, and Keelan Cole, 12.2, 4.4, and 4.1 respectively. Goodwin had that huge game last week. I guess perhaps you were hoping for the game to be a blowout there, which it was, and there'd be a lot of garbage time scraps for Goodwin to pick up, perhaps, maybe a long touchdown or two in there, but he was only able to manage 2 catches. Running backs, Kareem Hunt and Adrian Peterson. Hunt really turning things back around. He had 3 more touchdowns this week. He was just over 37 points, while Adrian Peterson, about 11.5. Like I said, Uzama was a tight end, 9.3. You went with Bilal Powell in the flex, only 3.5 points. I think he might have gotten injured in that game as well. So Gronk was out for this game, so you had to put in Uzama anyway. Let's see if you had any other options for the flex there. Not really, because Gronk was out. Kenny Stills might have been okay. His only catch was a touchdown, but he got hurt. So it doesn't look like you had too many options for that flex play. None of which would have made a difference in this matchup. Perhaps if Gronk had been healthy, that might have made a difference, but such is fantasy football. Kicker was Bailey. Looks like he got you about 12 or so. And then the Rams defense, so had a big game against San Francisco there. You probably said, well, what were you hoping for more? The Rams defense or Goodwin? You can't have both to have great games. And you got the Rams defense. You did not get Goodwin. Yahoo says 33. I think the actual total was up there into the 40s. So a good game from them. But unfortunately for FC Bohoric, said a couple good game for the Rams defense and Kareem Hunt, but everything else was pretty much single-digit scores and a really low quarterback score. And that just isn't going to get it done. As Possum Magic, he gets the victory and moves up to 2-5. He is in 10th place. Although FC Bohoric, maybe you can't feel too bad, because even though you are 1-6, you are in 11th place, And Possum, despite that win, he's only one spot ahead of you in the standings here. So, but at least he's trending in the right direction, and you are trending in the wrong direction. So, we'll see what happens in the weeks ahead. Next matchup, Hillbillies on PCP versus the Dub C Hooligans. Kind of alluded to this one a little bit before as being a Monday night matchup, but not really. I believe Dub C Hooligans were already ahead by about a point or so. While Hillbillies on PCP, he was already done, so there wasn't much that he could do. And fortunately for Dub C, he was just ahead because he did have Sanu still left to go, but Sanu really didn't do too much. He only got you 4 points. So fortunately, you were already on the right side of this matchup, and you did not need Sanu to have a good game for you, because he definitely did not. And things could have easily gone the other way here. Scores. Yikes. Dub C Hooligans getting a victory with 126.7. And the Hillbillies on PCP, 122.45. Gross. I think the Isotopes themselves outscored both of you put together. Gags was probably pretty close there. Actually, he was up there. But anyway, this was a pretty embarrassing performance from both teams. But somebody's got to win it. And Dub C Hooligans gets it. Let's take a look at his lineup. He had Goff at quarterback, 36.5. John Brown, Nelson Aguilar, and Taylor Gabriel. 26.5, 8, and 5.5 respectively. Mixon and McCoy, your running backs. 8 and 0.1. I think McCoy got an injury pretty early on in that game and never came back. Thus the 0.1. Fortunately for you, it didn't come back to hurt you. Kind of, maybe it did, because this is as good of a place as any to mention that the Dub C Hooligans were the ones. Despite the victory, you are eliminated from the knockout pool this week. But anyway, then we had Zach Ertz at tight end. Another good game for him, almost 23 points. Like I said, Sanu in the flex, only 4.1. Justin Tucker, I think he only had 4 points because he missed the first PAT of his career not his entire career, but since they moved the PATs back. Excuse me, he had not missed one yet. And it's been probably 2 or 3 years, right, since they changed that. Maybe it's been at least 2. And this was his first miss of a PAT. And unfortunately for him, it cost the Baltimore Ravens the game. Although this is good for the Steelers, so can't complain about that. Anytime Baltimore lost this year is always good for the Steelers there. So we'll take it. Didn't cost Dub C the victory. He still got it. So anytime you can get a win and the Ravens get a loss, it's always a good week. And you went with the Arizona Cardinals defense, who got blasted by the Broncos. I believe the Yahoo says 5, but I believe the actual total was 11. I think that you got some points there from rushing, low rushing yards, and Case Keenum not really doing too well. So even in defeat, they still got you 11 points. What was your other defense? I think the Vikings. They would have been a better play. Not sure why you didn't go with them against the Jets. But like I said, didn't cost you this week, so we'll see what happens. Unfortunately, said for Hillbillies on PCP, not enough to get past Dub C. He had Tom Brady at 48.5, Josh Gordon, Michael Crabtree, and Kenny Golladay, 14, 11.5, and 5.5 respectively. Running backs, David Johnson and Christian McCaffrey, 10 and 14. Ebron, 6.1. And then perhaps the difference maker in this matchup was the guy you picked up, Jermaine Kearse. I keep wanting to say Javon Kearse because you always say it in the podcast. That's not right. Javon Kearse was like a defensive lineman from the Titans back in like the early 2000s or maybe the late 90s. at least like 15 years ago. Jermaine Kearse, this guy went for 0 points. So that's got to be the worst part about this one for Hillbillies on PCP, because you could have put in Duke Johnson, you could have put, you got Jordan Howard, you could have put him in, Robbie Anderson even. Any of those guys would have gotten you enough points to win this matchup, although I have to admit that Kyle Rudolph would not have if you had had him in the flex for some reason. But yeah, if you had started either one of those guys, Duke Johnson, Jordan Howard, Robbie Anderson, not Alfred Blue, that would have changed the outcome of this matchup. But you did not. Let's see. We got 2 more players there. Butker for your kicker. He went for about 7 or 8. And then you had the Eagles defense, who lost the game. Yahoo says 5. I believe we figured out that was actually the correct score. Was 5 there. Let's see. You got a bunch of defenses there. Perhaps the Cowboys defense would have been a better play, or even though they lost, or maybe you might have actually made, of all your defenses who were going, you might have actually made the worst call by playing the Philadelphia defense this week. But I mean, that's the thing about having, you've got 4 defenses on your roster. I think you might have even had more than that at some point this season. So that's going to come with the territory of having to pick between 4 each week, and not just really having 1 or maybe 2 that you're pretty confident in going back and forth every week. That you're going to be bound to make the wrong decisions a couple times a year, and this week was one of those, and perhaps it cost you a victory here. But both of you are at the same record now. Hillbillies, let's see, Hooligans, he moves up to 4-3, while the Hillbillies drop to 4-3. And Hooligans actually bump just ahead of Hillbillies in 5th place, while the Hillbillies are in 6th place. And then the final matchup was Gags to Riches versus Mighty Midgets. And much like the Bad Luck Bears, the Mighty Midgets had been on a slide this past few weeks, while Gags has been quietly on a 6-game winning streak now. I think he lost in week 1 and has been winning ever since, putting up big scores here pretty much week in and week out. And I always feel like I say it's quietly, because Gags has yet to make any big splashes in the trade market as he usually does. But anyway, said Mighty Midgets, he really needed this one to try and end that losing streak. Not able to do it this week, as Gags to Riches goes for another 200-point score, 222.45 to 167 for the Midgets. All right, Gags to Riches, he had Cousins for 45. Receivers, Alshon Jeffrey, Dante Moncrief, and Tyrell Williams. Jeffrey, 22, Moncrief, 14.5, and Williams, actually, I think he actually got, he says 21.8, but he got +3 for a long touchdown there. So he was actually 24.8. So pretty good receiver scores there. And then your running backs, Barkley and Murray. No Cook, no problem, as Murray puts up another 22 points for you, and Barkley going for 26.5. Having watched that game on Monday, most of that game on Monday night, said Barkley, he had another 9 catches. So he's really not, if you watch the Giants, I mean, I don't want to say, I know Barkley, I know he's good, but I feel like he might be overachieving in PPR simply because the Giants offense and their O-line is just so bad that Eli Manning seems like he just doesn't have much of a choice, many plays, other than to just dump it off to Saquon Barkley, which his receiving stats this year have been pretty ridiculous. I'm not sure exactly how many. See if I can figure out how many catches he has this year real quick. I don't think I can. Oh, let's take a real quick look and see if we can find it. Yeah, Saquon Barkley has 49 catches this year in 7 games. So he's averaging 7 catches a game. That's pretty much been a lot of the Giants' offense. As said, Eli Manning has been struggling, not getting enough time from the offensive line there to get the ball downfield to Shepard and Beckham Jr. a lot. Hence the excuse me, Saquon Barkley. A lot of his points this year are coming from the passing game there. But anyway, I digress. And Kelsey in the tight end spot, 14.5. Willie Snead in the flex, 6.5. Zerline back from his injury, he got you about 13 or 14. And the Kansas City defense put up, let's see, Yahoo says 17. I think it might have actually been about double that. They did pretty well against Andy Dalton, who was just abysmal in at least the second half of that game, and definitely hurt a couple teams in the league this week. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the Chiefs' defense score was, but I believe it was in the maybe. So Yahoo is 17. It was probably somewhere close to 30 or so, maybe even a little bit above that. But the 222 was enough to get past Mighty Midgets this week. His lineup, we have Carson Wentz with 55 points. Receivers, Adam Thielen, Sammy Watkins, and Chris Godwin. 26, 11.5, and 11 respectively. Your big duo, Zeke and Kamara, kind of fizzled again this week. Zeke only 6.2, and Kamara 15.5, although that was a tough matchup against the Ravens there in Baltimore. So hopefully, said Kamara, the Saints have already had their bye, so you've got him for the rest of the season. Hopefully for him, the schedule will get more accommodating, and things will get. Don't know if he'll return to 35 to 40 points a game like he was at the beginning of the season, especially now that Ingram is back. But hopefully for you, he's going to be average. He said even he got 15 points against the Ravens, so you can't be disappointed with that. And hopefully you'll expect that expectations for future matchups will be 15 to 20 point, maybe even at the minimum 15 to 20 point range there for you. So we'll see what happens with him. Tight end Seals Jones only 3.2. Flex, you were able to plug in Eckler because Gordon was out. He got you just under 12 points. No touchdowns from him, but he did a couple catches, some okay yardage stats there. Prater, your kicker, looks like about 15 points or so from him. And then you had the Chargers defense playing in London against the Titans there. They were able to hold on and get a victory. I believe the Titans actually went for 2 instead of kicking the extra point to tie that game, and they did not get it, which meant that the Chargers got the win, and plus 3 points for you there. I believe the Chargers' actual score was probably closer to 20 than it was. Yahoo says 11, but so you got those extra 3 points there. But unfortunately for Mighty Midgets, it didn't make any difference here, as Gags to Riches knocks you off by about 50, 60 points there. So Gags to Riches, he is now 6-1. He is in second place, while the Mighty Midgets drops to 3-4. He is in 7th place. All right, those are all the matchups for the week. I think I mentioned that Kevin Bean was the Dubsy Hooligans were eliminated from the knockout pool this week. So that means the survivors left on after 7 weeks are the Isotopes, the Shawshank Athletics, the Bad Luck Bears, Disco, and Mighty Midgets. Mighty Midgets are still alive. So, yeah, Isotopes, Athletics, Disco, Bears, and Mighty Midgets here. So, only a couple more weeks left. for the knockout pool. That always is decided in week 11. And like Josh mentioned on the lineup there, Brian has already been eliminated, so we know that the knockout pool pot will most likely not be split this year, unless it comes down to it's usually somehow Jay is usually involved when it comes to splitting the pot there, but I don't think anybody else will be making such gentlemanly agreements there. But anyway, is there anything else that I missed? I don't think so. Said Mighty Midgets. He's now on a 3-game losing streak. The Isotopes has opened the season at 7-0, although just a reminder that is not the record as far as we know, going back to about 2010 or so. The longest Tonto's Demise winning streak is actually 9, held by Possum Magic. I know you can't see this. There's a lot of information you can't get if you're on the app there, but if you're on the computer here, like I am now, you can actually go back and get a lot of that information there. Trying to think what year it was. Just a couple of years ago, I think Possum Magic, I want to say maybe 2014. I think what happened was he lost the first 2 games of the year and then won 9 in a row and then lost the last 2 games of the year and ended up 9-4. So he lost 2, won 9, and then lost 2 more there, I believe is what happened. So not getting ahead of ourselves here, but just something to watch perhaps as Gags is right on their tail with 6 wins in a row. So we'll see what happens if anybody can catch up to or perhaps break that winning streak record. So we'll see what happens there. Take a quick peek here at week 8. See what the matchups look like. We've got Hillbillies on PCP trying to knock off the Isotopes, give them their first loss as Hillbillies. So they lost last week. They're going to try to turn things around. Maybe after I said an abysmal score last week, we'll see what they can do here. Then we've got the White Wolf and FC Bahoric, 1-6 versus 0-7. Kind of doesn't really. I feel bad saying this, but this matchup is fairly insignificant to the overall scheme of things for the season. Then we got Gags versus Jay. Big matchup there, as Jay said he kind of was hoping to turn things around. He got it after a couple game losing streak there. He's looking to keep getting back into the upper part of the standings there, as he's going against Gags, trying to end his losing streak. So both teams kind of been rolling. So even though Bad Luck Bears were kind of on a losing streak, they were still putting up pretty good point totals. So Gags versus Jay should be a really good matchup. Then we've got Disco versus Shawshank. The projections look pretty even here. Disco got his second loss of the year. He's trying to bounce back, while Shawshank trying to get back to 500 and keep his team in the playoff race there. So not really a must-win for the Athletics this week, but he definitely needs to get it if he can. So that'll be an interesting one to watch. Dubsy Hooligans versus Space Antelope. Another good matchup, as the Hooligans have been climbing back up here. And just like the Space Antelope has also been climbing back, said after he started 0-3. He's climbing his way back, trying to get to 4-4, back to 500 there. While the Dubsy Hooligans will look to avoid falling to 4-4 and maybe move Space Antelope one step closer to playoff elimination there. So that'll be a good matchup. They're all going to be pretty good here. And then we've got the Midgets. Like I said, he's got a 3-game losing streak. He's going up against Possum Magic, he's only 2-5, but his team has been they've been hit or miss, but they've been putting up some pretty decent scores. They've put up some bad scores, but they've also put up a couple good ones, even in defeat there. So this will be no walk in the park for Mighty Midgets to try to end his losing streak, even though the projection is about 20-point difference there in favor of the Midgets, though. Anything can happen on any given Sunday. So yeah, that'll be a good matchup to watch as well. So really, pretty much every matchup is going to be pretty interesting, and will affect this, have some standings effects here moving forward. So will be fun to watch. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. So, all right, guys, good luck this week. Hopefully, no one on your team gets injured. Everyone does. Everybody performs as expected, and we all have a good week. And we'll see you back here again next week. All right, guys. Thank you.